Welcome to the Real View podcast, where Ohio Realtors connect you to innovators and influencers, keeping you with the real view of real estate. Whether you're a broker, agent, first-time homebuyer, industry leader, or just happen to stumble upon our podcast today, you can expect to hear tips, tools, tricks, interesting information, and so much more from the experts in Ohio's real estate game.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Real View Ohio Policy Talks. I'm your host, Anastasia Kutkowska. I'm the Manager of Advocacy and Research here at Ohio Realtors, and I'm here today with NAR's new political representative covering Ohio, Marygrace Fitzhenry. I thought today would be a great opportunity to introduce Marygrace, the new NAR team member, and discuss a few issues that are pending at the federal level. So, Marygrace, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited.
And we're really excited to get to know you and introduce you a bit to our members. So why don't we start with that? Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and how you ended up at NAR?
Absolutely. So just a little bit about me. I was born and raised in Maryland. Actually started near Baltimore City, but ended up growing up in Annapolis, Maryland, which is our state capital. From there, I came from a little bit of a political family, and so I kind of grew up in the political world as well. I graduated from University of Maryland, went on to become a political consultant for a firm out there, and then I went to be a local guide at the Anne Arundel County Association of Realtors, and I was there for 4 years before I came to NAR, and the reason I actually got to NAR was through, the push from some other guides, which was really awesome. But just also thought of, I think I can do a little bit more. And I think I would like to do that on a federal level. And I wanted to stay with the Realtor Party family. And so I ended up here, luckily.
That's awesome. And with your past role being with a local realtor association, and for those of you who don't know, GAD is Government Affairs Director. Have you seen that kind of helping you transition into NAR?
Absolutely. So just on the aspect of, I already knew a lot of the staff members here, and I have met a lot of the government affairs directors, the state and local ones throughout, some of our annual conferences, and especially our GAD Institute that we have every July. So it's kind of really awesome going from seeing and working with folks from one level and sharing ideas to now like helping them, and also, still sharing ideas, but serving as that liaison between the federal and also like the state and local. So I'm like swapping information, digesting it, and giving it to each other side. And I do really love that aspect about it. But also from the perspective of, making the other new GADs feel comfortable, because everyone was once a new government affairs director. And we do have our spring orientation almost every March. And just giving them a little push of saying, hey, have you done this before? I saw that you just started 3 months ago. This really helped me when I first started. And it would be a great opportunity if you're able to go. And I think that kind of makes it a little more personable too. So I like that aspect of it.
Yeah, and I actually think I met you at the GAD Institute last summer. So that was really cool. And it's been great to transition up into NAR. So, and I really do think that past experience is invaluable. But shifting to your role as political representative, can you talk about exactly what you do and how you can assist Ohio Realtors?
So in really simple terms, I guess, I could say that I kind of serve as a political director or representative. I serve as the liaison between federal advocacy and state and local advocacy. But I was actually just talking to one of our lobbyist team members earlier, and he was like, I kind of think of it as we're the external lobbyists that go on the Hill, but you're more of like the political representative team is more of our internal lobbyists. So we give you information of what's going on the Hill, what's happening, what's going on with campaign, some of the campaign stuff and how it's being reflected on the Hill. And then we digest that information, and then we're able to go out to the state and locals and tell them exactly what's going on in the Hill. Because all the state and local associations have all of their own legislation that's going on as well. And no one can stay on top of all of that at one time. And that's kind of where we serve as liaison, but also vice versa. Our lobbying team that's on the Hill, they also don't have all the time and resources in the world to actually understand what each individual state is doing. So we get back from our state and local visits and we sit down with our team and we're saying, hey, this is what's going on in this local association and in this city association. They're really dealing with taxes right now, or they're really having a hard time passing an ADU legislation, that kind of thing. So that we're also helping both sides, like liaison for both sides. And it's really helpful to have that position, I think.
This episode of The Real View is brought to you by the Ohio Association of Community Colleges. Ohio's network of community colleges provides accessible training that accommodates the busy lifestyles of aspiring real estate professionals at half the price of a traditional university. With convenient locations in every part of the state, as well as online options, Ohio's community colleges are your smart choice for pre-licensing education. For more details or to start the journey to a real estate career, visit the education page at ohiorealtors.org and then click on the pre-license course locations.
And you've been extremely helpful to us already in your short time at NAR, and we loved having you at our winter conference a few days ago and giving you a chance to do just that, to explain what you do and some of the issues at the federal level and share that with our members. And we have quite a large membership. We have about 36,000 members, and we have some great active members who are engaged in the political space. So, and switching gears to talk about some federal policy and legislation, are there any issues that you think we should be aware of? And I know that the new session just started, but do you see any issues that are pending or that you think will be coming down the pipeline anytime soon?
Well, absolutely. We have quite a few priorities, actually. And this is another good thing, not only for y'all and the federal political coordinators, the FPCs, but also our members. We want to keep them really engaged. So this was an awesome question. Thanks for asking it. So one of our main priorities, just jumping right into it, is, we want to update America's tax law to increase access to home ownership. And addressing housing affordability starts with adding to the nation's severely limited inventory. So some of the priorities that we have in this upcoming Congress, they include supporting the More Homes on the Market Act. That works to decrease the equity penalty and incentivize more long-term owners to sell their homes. We're also supporting the Revitalization of Downtowns and Main Streets Act. And this incentivizes a conversion of commercial buildings into residential units and mixed-use properties. And I know that one especially has been on the upwards trend and becoming more popular in the last 3 years, which is really great to see that. Another one of the pieces of legislation that we're looking to support is the Neighborhood Homes Investment Act. And that attracts private investment to build and rehabilitate owner-occupied homes, which is really great. And then lastly, on one of those sides as well is the Yes in My Backyard, the YIMBY Act, and that encourages state and local governments to remove barriers to housing development and implement pro-growth policies, which is another thing where it's so important that our state and our locals and our federals all work together, because it really does start at the local and state levels. On another flip side to, some of the tax law and on the other side, so we really want to ensure this Congress equal access to professional representation and supporting fair housing. So real estate represents 16% of the U.S. GDP and supports 2.8 million jobs and generates $50 billion in tax revenue nationwide. 88% of realtors are small business owners and 62% are women, using their expertise to help consumers navigate the intricacies of real estate transactions. Some of those priority legislation that builds off of that is we want to support the Direct Seller and Real Estate Agent Harmonization Act. This would ensure real estate agents maintain their independent contractor status under the Fair Labor Standards Act. And then also, lastly, we want to support the Fair and Equal Housing Act, which adds sexual orientation and gender identity as protected classes under the Fair Housing Act. So those are a few of our top, especially for this month and the next few legislative priorities for this Congress.
Yeah, no, for sure. It takes a super collaborative approach. I mean, you need these federal policies, but here at the state level, we've also seen some major investments made for new housing construction, but it does require all hands on deck. But we certainly look forward to working with you and the rest of your team. Thank you so much for being here today and taking time to introduce yourself. We at Ohio Realtors are really happy to have you on board. You've been a great resource already, and we look forward to working with you. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I am so happy to have Ohio. I am so happy to get to work with y'all. And I look forward to continue doing so.
Awesome. Thanks. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in, and we will see you in the next episode of The Real View.
Thank you for listening to The Real View. That wraps up today's episode. You can keep up with the latest on the podcast at ohiorealtors.org/therealview and on Apple or Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Have questions, comments, or suggestions? We want to hear from you. Email us at podcast@ohiorealtors.org. We'll see you next time.